Test, test.
I want to make sure Noah's works. Can we just test Noah's microphone, make sure? Yeah, now I know it's on. Noah, does yours work? Yes.
Does mine work? Yeah.
Yes, it does. Okay.
תתחיל לצלם קצת, תתחיל לצלם קצת. פשוט תצלמי. בקאמרה, מתי שבא לך. בסדר? אם זה נסגר, זה פשוט ככה מהצד, את יכולה. היי!
So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This is a really special night for not only Temple Sholom, but for our whole community. I want to thank the Ronald S. Rodberg Foundation, the Jewish Federation of Greater Vancouver, CIJA, the Center for Israel Jewish Affairs, and I want to thank all of you for coming out. I know that there were a couple of choices tonight. There's not only is the other program down at Shar Tzedek, but there's an anti-Semitism training that's happening for DPAC, for the Vancouver School Board. So there's lots of things going on, and that's a good thing. And we're a big enough community to host all of these things, and we are thrilled that Noah, Achinoam Nini, Noah is here in person. Because so many of us get to listen to you on Spotify and on YouTube, and that's the singing, and we're going to maybe get a little bit of that, but really we're here to have a conversation. I want to acknowledge that we are on the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Squamish people. Thank you. We've just started moving from saying the Coast Salish people to the actual names, and I shouldn't do it off of the top of my head. And we are grateful to be on this land and respectful of it. Tonight is a conversation between me and Noah, but you get to ask the questions. So if you haven't submitted them already, you can use the QR code on the screen, and if you can figure out the app, some of us were able to, some of us weren't. You can see the 18 or 20 questions or so that have already been submitted, and there's a little thumb there. You can vote up the questions if you really want to see that we can get it in the time that we have, or you can submit your own questions, and we'll do our best to get those in. But I'm going to tell you now, we're not going to get to all of them, because I have my own, too. You look like a pretty reasonable crowd, but I'll just say, this is a conversation between Noah and I for you to listen to. So we don't want any outbursts from the congregation, from the community. If you don't like what you hear, listen deeply, and maybe you'll walk away more convinced that you don't like what you hear. That's fine. But if you can't stand to listen to what you're hearing, then please walk away quietly and not screaming and yelling out of the room or screaming and yelling at us. This is a sanctuary, and this is our community. It's not a place for either of those things. I think those were all of my opening notes. So before we get into the questions that you submitted, I just want to say again, Noah, how pleased I am to be able to do this with you.
Thank you.
Many of us know you from your music. We know you also from your advocacy. But we might not all know your origin story of how you came to both your artistry and where you use your voice musically, and how you use your voice to draw attention to the places in the world that need light shined upon them. I wonder if you could tell us just a bit about where this all started.
All right. Well, first of all, shalom, everybody, and thank you. Thank you for choosing. Toda rabba, toda rabba, toda. Thank you. I will start by saying that I'm here. I came to Canada to do a meditation retreat. I'm going to spend 10 days in silence doing a vipassana. That was my impetus for coming to BC. And since I have friends here, the Rodberg Foundation, Steve and Mark and Bernard and Daniela and everyone, I said, well, if I'm already coming halfway across the world, why not try to organize a meeting with the community? Because I think that in these troubled times, we have to be together, we have to hear each other, we have to communicate, share our experiences. I think this is a moment in history none of us expected to be alive through. And here we are, right in the midst of it. So I didn't actually think that anything could be arranged, but here we are with Dan. So toda rabba for doing this, and all of you for agreeing, for making this happen. It's not something I normally do. You know, I'm a concert, performer. And when I do speak, it's normally in interviews or things like that, in television shows, but not this kind of thing. So it's very unique for me also. I'm not doing this professionally. I'm doing it from my heart and for love and as a mission, as I see it. So here we are. That's just to give you the introduction. When I finish my Vipassana, there will be a new president in the United States. It'll be a different world. And I'll let you know the conclusions I've come to after 10 days of silence.
You might stay in that.
I might, yeah, I just might.
We might all join you.
No, I'll tell you what, it's just too rainy here for me. I like sunshine. You know, they say Baruch Hashem, I say Baruch Hashemesh.
Yeah.
I like Shemesh, anyway. So I was born in Israel in 1969. I'm 55 years old. Hamsa, double Hamsa. I was born a fifth generation in Israel. My family comes originally from Yemen, but as opposed to the big aliyot, the waves of migration from Yemen, they came independently in 1850 and 1855. My mother's and father's family, both from north and south of Yemen. They came because they were persecuted at the time, and they came to the only place they knew that their heart drew them to, and that was Jerusalem and Kinneret. Those are the two places. They walked across the desert and took boats and were smuggled by Bedouins. It's a very dramatic story how the family made it to the Holy Land. And so I was born, this fifth generation, and then my father decided to make another epic journey to another promised land, the United States of America, where he got a scholarship to study chemical engineering in the University of Rochester. So I spent the first couple of years of my life in Rochester, New York. They were blissful years. I remember them, snow and black-eyed Susans and big bullfrogs and stuff like that. I refused to go to school, by the way. I refused any kind of kindergarten and nursery. I just would not go. I stayed at home. My mother homeschooled me, and until first grade. So when I went into first grade, my family moved to the Bronx, New York. My dad was now doing his PhD in Columbia University, and my parents decided to send my brother and I to yeshiva. Now you have to understand the situation, right? We're a secular Yemenite Israeli family, of very modest means. You know, my parents were struggling students, and they sent us to modern Orthodox yeshiva, Ashkenazi, religious, very Tzioni Dati, Bnei Akiva, Itnachaluyot, that kind of thing. Who knew what a settlement was or what Itnachalut was at the time? But all of my friends from school are living by Itnachaluyot in the settlements. So that's where I grew up. So you can understand, already, just from day one, I was already in an identity crisis. I was the only dark-skinned kid in the school, the only Israeli kid in the school, the only family that didn't live in something that looked like a mansion. And I had to deal with that. My way of dealing with it in two ways. First, fortunately, I was a gifted student. So we had the scholarship to school that I helped my parents with my mind. I have my parents get us through school because they couldn't afford the school otherwise. And music. I started writing songs at a very young age. My musical talent sort of emerged. I always say that I didn't choose music because I never thought I was going to be a musician. I was interested in physics and mathematics. I loved history. I wanted to go to Harvard and do a PhD in physics and history. But that didn't happen, obviously. But music did choose me. It just chose me. It just implanted this talent in me. And I was so obviously a musician that's it. I was following my fate. I started writing songs and composing and playing instruments. I'm an autodidact, by the way. I play a bunch of instruments, but I did not actually study them. I taught myself to play them. And I was writing, songs for the school plays, for the Chumash play, for the Tanakh play, for the songs about God. By the way, a fan of mine, a really crazy fan of mine that is like obsessed with me from France, found an album of a young Hasidic singer, a 9-year-old like Hasidic prodigy, where one of the songs is a song that I wrote when I was 7 years old.
Really?
I remember the song. I remember the whole song, by the way, by heart. Ribon Olam Ol Maya, it was called. It was very religious, kind of about Maze Ribon Olam, what is God? I was very, very interested in the whole God concept to this day, by the way. And so they recorded this song. So that was my thing. Music and education got me through the whole thing. When I was 17 years old, I took a different turn. On a summer vacation in Israel, I met a soldier who was, you know that in Israel when we go on hiking trips, anyone that goes on a hiking trip, there's normally security or melavei neshek, it's called, somebody that accompanies the trip. So this soldier was on leave and he was accompanying the trip in the mountains, and so I fell in love with him totally. I was 16, he was 21. I went back home, I told my parents, I'm making aliyah. I said, you raised me to be a Zionist, we love Israel, I want to live in Israel, I'm sick of New York. And they're like, all of a sudden you're sick of New York? Ma kara pitom? I said, that's it. You know, of course I didn't let them into the fact. They didn't understand the real impetus, but after a year, I made aliyah. I mean, I did all my bagruyot, and I got accepted to a boarding school in Jerusalem, Boya, if anybody knows that school. And I was in Israel. And of course, the only reason I wanted to be in Israel is because of my boyfriend, which, by the way, I'm married, and I'm still married too. And we have 3 beautiful children, so that actually worked. It was fate. And I went to the army. I was in Lakat Tzva'it, Lakat Pikut Tzafon. And
I'm not sure everybody knows what that is.
Yeah, Lakat Tzva'it is a military entertainment unit. Or a band. It's just an army band like the USO or whatever, and Bismano. Very, very popular in Israel throughout the years. Many of the big hits came from these bands. When I came in, and today it's less, but still very important, significant part of the military. And then I started my career. I achieved success very, very, very quickly. I started a collaboration that is going on to this day with an amazing musician who was my teacher I went to a school of music. I was there for 1 semester, the Ramon School of Music, if you know. It's a school of jazz and contemporary music, very much like the Berklee School in Boston. And the artistic or academic director, who was also my teacher for several of the courses, became my musical collaborator. His name is Gil Dor. He's an extraordinary and amazing, brilliant musician. And we've been working together now for 34 years. We very quickly got the attention of the public and record companies. And we were very fortunate to catch the attention of a great artist by the name of Pat Metheny. Do you know the guitarist Pat Metheny? Yeah. Well, he's the musician's musician, and he's one of the more brilliant musicians in the world. He produced my first album, my first international album, and he brought this album to David Geffen, who he was then signed at Geffen Records. And David Geffen signed me, and that's how I started my international. By the way, we were the last signing of David Geffen before he left Geffen and went to DreamWorks. You know, and yeah, I'm still in good touch with him. So, and then I started this I had an international career, an Israeli career. Everything was going swimmingly, as we'd say. And I have to say, I had absolutely no interest in the political situation in Israel. In fact, I have to say that I had no idea what was going on. I grew up with the Jewish narrative, you know, the Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, B'nai Akiva, Torah v'Avodah, B'nai Akiva. I'll tell you even more, and it's pretty radical, right? When I was a kid, my brother and I, we went to a modern Orthodox yeshiva, so it's tzniut, you know, tzitziot, kippah, and everything. And many times my brother was bullied when we lived in the Bronx, in the southern part of the Bronx. And he was bullied by the black kids, Puerto Rican kids, and it was tough. So when the Rav Meir Kahana came to school with the JDL, we were very much swept away, because the JDL, the Jewish Defense League, offered us as kids a way to be, you know, we could lift our chins and we could be proud and not be bullied by the other kids. So I used to wear a JDL T-shirt, and we used to, which is amazing, you know.
That'd be a picture to find and put.
That would be an interesting. I looked one. I can't find one with that specific T-shirt. But anyway, but that's just to say that, you know, when you're in a certain world and you see it from a certain point of view, then that seems right to you. You know, first of all, you would never. A sentence that I like a lot is Rav Anistar al Nigle, which is there is more that you do not see than what you do see. So you always see we saw a certain element of what Kahana was presenting, which meant that we needed to stand up for ourselves, so we could be strong, and no one was going to bully us around, and that was good for us, and we went with it. We didn't know the rest of his philosophy. That would reveal itself later on. Anyway, so that was the atmosphere of my youth. And when I came to Israel, in Israel, the Jewish, I didn't know there was such a thing as a Palestinian bichlal. I didn't understand that whole story. No one had told me that story. And then I started my international career. I started performing abroad, and foreign journalists started asking me my opinion about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And I'm like, I'm an artist, I don't speak about things like that. Don't ask me questions like that, and then I went to Gil, who's 17 years older than I am, and I said, what are these guys talking about? And he said, oh, well. And this is after I had been in the army. Simu lev. I'd passed the entire military without understanding anything about, I was like singing, soldiers, doing my thing, very much in my world. And we'll talk about that later when we talk about my own daughter today, right? It was my world, and I was, doing my thing. But then I said, this is ridiculous. I can't be, I'm an intelligent, I think, sort of an intelligent person, and I need to know what I'm talking about. And then slowly, the picture started revealing itself to me. And I was like, whoa, really? There's a whole other strata, a whole substructure, a whole other story that I was just not aware of. I didn't know this whole thing. How did I not know? I said to myself, oh my God. And so I started learning more and reading more, and I became more and more depressed. And then came Yitzhak Rabin and started talking about peace. And I was like, yes, this is great. I was very enthusiastic about the Oslo Accords and very much supportive of them. And then the mayor of Tel Aviv, Chich, Shlomo Lahat at the time, approached me and asked me if I would be willing to sing at a very big peace rally that he was organizing to support Rabin and Peres on their endeavor to make peace. And I said, well, of course, what could be a better cause than singing for peace? We don't want war, we want peace. So he said, wow, thank you so much, I really appreciate that. And I told him, well, do you actually have room on the list with all those artists? I mean, everyone is there, I imagine, aren't they? And he said, well, no. And I said, what do you mean no? He said, no, none of them are there. None of the big artists would come. And I said, you're kidding me with this? Okay, forget it, I don't care, I'm coming, right? And I was there. I was actually the most popular artist. At the time, I already had a very big career in Israel. With hits, Boy Kala, blah, blah, blah. I was performing in a lot of very big halls. And there were other artists there. There were great people there, but none of them of the, Shalom Chanoch and Rita and all of those, the Polikel, they weren't there. So it was a wonderful moment. Like 150,000 people in Kikar Malchei Israel. And everybody was saying yes to peace, no to violence, and da-da-da. And then I saw Rabin, and I hugged him. I had already performed for him many times beforehand. And I walked down the stairs, and 10 minutes later, he walked down the stairs and was killed. Behind my back, seriously, like physically. I remember the rush and the cry and everybody running and panic, and myself running and pushing to see what had happened. And it's a trauma. I haven't recovered. Absolutely not. I haven't recovered. And neither has Israel. So at that moment, I think it was like an hour later, I already made a decision. I said, okay, well, if this guy just paid for his life, with his life, for our future, future of Israel, future of my children, then I too can do something. And then maybe I'll pay a price and that'll be okay, because it's the right thing to do. And that's when I started becoming an activist for peace. And that will be, in just a few days, 29 years of speaking about peace. Supporting peace. I support the two-state solution. And I've done this now in myriad ways over all of these years. That was a life-changing event. There were two other life-changing events around that time, in the mid-90s. One of them was I was invited to sing in the Vatican for Pope John Paul II. And I was invited to sing an Ave Maria that I had written lyrics to. So I took the Bach Gounod Ave Maria, I wrote lyrics of my own for peace, a prayer for peace. And I think I was the first, I don't think I know, I was the first Jew to ever have been invited to sing in the Vatican. I was just 26 years old. Since I've been invited, I think 15 times to sing for 3 popes now. Yeah, that might be a world record. You know. Somebody said, "No, you're a very popular singer." Anyways, but Pope Francis especially is actually an incredible guy, a very, very beautiful human being, and I've had the chance to sing for him many, many times. And I was also invited to write the lyrics and sing the theme song of the incredible film Life is Beautiful, which is La Vita Bella, which won the Oscar. And that song has become like the most iconic song of my career in life. Because as you know, if you haven't seen the film, by the way, it's a heart-stopping film, where this father actually saves his child's life by creating a situation within the tragedies of the Holocaust, whereby the entire thing is a sort of game. He's creating a world for his child, which is a world of laughter and love and light. He himself knows he will lose his life, but he wants to save his child's life with beauty, with hope. How gorgeous is that? I mean, I was so inspired, and the song, by the way, has gone around the world many, many times, been translated now to several languages, and during COVID, by the way, it was a song that thousands of people played in their terraces, in their homes, and I got hundreds and hundreds of videos from around the world how this song was helping people get through this so difficult time of isolation. So that's in the mid-90s is when my activism and my work for society became intertwined with my career. Even though I don't write peace songs, but I do many things that are connected to this kind of thing. Maybe most notably, I represented Israel in the Eurovision Song Contest in 2009. The Eurovision Song Contest is an enormous musical bonanza viewed by hundreds of millions of people around the world. And I was chosen to represent Israel. I was already very, very, very popular in Europe. And I said I would, but my conditions were that I wanted to write the song myself so that I could make the statements through the song, and that I wanted to invite my Palestinian-Israeli colleague, Mira Awad, to sing together with me. And that's what happened. I wrote a song called There Must Be Another Way, and we sang it in English, Hebrew, and Arabic. It made a lot of waves around the world. And I have to say that until today, it is taught in schools around the world. I'm constantly receiving videos of school children singing this song. And I'll tell you a funny story about that. Mira, her mother is from Bulgaria, and her father is Palestinian. She's quite fair-skinned with green eyes. My family's from Yemen. I'm technically Arabic. I'm an Arabic Jew. And so when we sat in front of media, I remember there was one day where they had BBC Iran, they had Al Jazeera, and they had all kinds of media and other kinds of it. And so all the Arab media immediately came up to me in Arabic, and to her in English, she's the Jew. And so I told them, you see, so that is the role of art. Our role is to shake you up a little. You think you understand everything? Maybe you don't. Maybe there's another way of looking at it. There must be another way, right? You can't think that you understand everything about everything. No, it's not black and white. And that's, of course, very relevant to where we are today. So I guess that will wrap up this first long answer to a short question. Just give you a little perspective.
Thank you for that. You're right, it was one question. That was pretty good. So before we get to October 7,
right.
I want to stop just before. I want to stop and maybe stop on October 6. Your involvement in the anti-judicial reform cause, but even before that, tell us about your views before October 7, and we'll talk about them after. What were you engaged with? What were you working for in Israel? Did you have any hope that the things that you were working for, did you see any indication that that some of the efforts and the coexistence and the work that you were doing was bearing any fruit? What were your goals? What were your hopes and aspirations?
Peace. My hopes and aspirations are that we achieve peace with our neighbors. Yeah, world peace, you know, but in that case, I'm very much the hippie. But I'm a flower child, and I believe that my place in this world is to bear that torch, peace. Have I seen the fruits of my labors? Yes and no, but that doesn't matter from my point of view. I think you should do your thing. And you never know when results will be seen. They'll be seen in your children's generation. They're seen in places that you don't know, going back to that sentence, Rav Anistar al Anigle. Things that seemed absurd when I started talking about them are not so absurd anymore. More people are talking about them. It's been said many times before that, you know, that talking about a Palestinian state used to be illegal in Israel. Have you ever heard of a guy called Abi Natan? Have you heard of him? So Abi Natan started this incredible radio station called The Voice of Peace. He was an incredible man. I always think that somebody should write a musical about him. Maybe I will at some point. I think he's a fascinating story. But you know, he went to jail for meeting with Palestinians. You know, today, you don't go to jail for meeting Palestinians. You could agree with it or not agree with it, but it's legal. Everybody knows that there's discourse is going on. Is that progress? Yes, that's progress. That's great progress. You know, there's a huge polemic about whether there should be or there shouldn't be a Palestinian state. But there is a conversation being had about it. And everyone understands that there is a great possibility that it might happen, and maybe it might not happen, but it's on the table. In the past, it was like not even talked about at all. It was underground. It was something very, very hidden. That's progress. I see that as progress. In the span of my activism, hundreds of organizations have come out of nowhere and are working and are flourishing. I sit on the board of many of them. I support them. I help them raise money. I help them raise awareness. I make it a point in my work abroad when I talk to media, international media, to tell them about the amazing work being done in Israel between Arabs and Jews and in general. You know, I sit, for example, on the board of an organization called the Arava Institute, if you've heard about it, which is down south in Ketorah, working through the environment, through sustainability, bringing students from all over the Middle East together, all over the world. Incredible work. I sit on the board of the El-Fahim Museum of Art, which is I highly recommend it. The Roadbrook Foundation, I'm happy to say that I brought them to El-Fahim, and they're now supporting Saeed Abu Shakra, one of the most beautiful people, really bringing people together through art and empowering their community in El-Fahim, and also the connection between Jews and Arabs within Israel. It's just beautiful what they do there. I'm very much involved with the Parent Circle Family Forum, and in that context, we will show a video. For example, that's a project that I made a whole album dedicated to Johann Sebastian Bach, who is my absolute favorite composer. And one of the pieces on this album is called is the Largo from Concerto No. 5 in F minor. And I wrote lyrics to it inspired by these two women that I had met in the Parent Circle Family Forum. For anyone who doesn't know what this organization does, it's an organization of bereaved families, Israeli Jews and Palestinians who have lost their family members, the thing dearest to them in this world. And rather than choosing vengeance and hatred, they chose to work together. They say so many incredible things. They say, it should stop here. If I've already suffered, that's it. I want to be the last to suffer this horrible fate of losing a child or losing a mother or father or a loved one. And I love that, and I think it's so noble. And so these two women were my inspiration for writing the lyric. And you know, maybe we'll take a look at the video. Yeah.
Marielle, can we play that video?
Look at me.
That's the first one I showed you. See if this works.
Look at me across the border, beyond the wall. Look at me the way you would observe yourself in life's broken mirror. No, I refuse to bow to those who say the world is changing now, and as it changes, there's no way to see like a child lost in the loneliest night. Those who'd sentence us to fear and fight. Here is a woman in labor. Her child will soon be born, but who knows if he'll find favor in the eyes of those who rule and rampage, who dominate the earth and skies. With words of hate, they close the gates of hope. Come, we cannot let them blind us. For every woman in the world knows what it's like when they cripple and bind us. Forever searching and waiting and anticipating, we ask ourselves when, we ask again and again, when will we finally find freedom? Look, there is a crack and it's growing. There is a light and it's glowing through the sorrow, beyond the tears, beyond tomorrow. There must be something more that we can do. I can see you, your beauty shows. Beyond your weakness and pain, it glows. The morning is near now. As the stars disappear, we'll shatter that wall. We'll watch it fall. Together, sister, we can. Come, give me your
Thank you so much. Yeah. So that's an example of the kind of way that music with Bach, the great Bach, and these amazing. This is Bushra Awad and Robbie Damelin from the Parent Circle of Family Forum. So I would do things like that. Mm-hmm. And raise my voice. Very, as I say, always try to show the positive side. What is being done? What can be done? Mm-hmm. How people are coming together? How they're working together? And yeah, that was always parallel to me promoting my albums and doing my shows and blah 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 blah. This was an important part of it.
But I know that before October 7, and certainly after, we're going to get to that right now. The peace movement, and I was in Israel when Rabin was prime minister, and we're about the same age, was shriveling and shrinking and getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
And so now October 7 happens. Mm-hmm. So I want to understand, first of all, you on that day, and what you were doing and what you were feeling and what you did in that moment. And what you've done since, what you've experienced, and if you can talk about your daughter who's serving in a combat unit in the IDF,
yeah, that's true.
And how you navigate that, and the complex of feelings and emotions. There's a lot in that. I'm not even sure there's a question, but there's a lot of curiosity.
Of course.
But I'll just say that what we hear, Chutz La'aretz, what we hear in the diaspora is that there isn't really a peace movement to be found in Israel anymore, certainly not within the Israeli community, and that what there was largely down in the Gaza envelope and amongst those kibbutzniks, and they too are now questioning whether that was the right course to be taking.
Right. Well, first of all, we'll talk about the peace movement, yeah. The world in general is not a great place for people who believe in peace right now. I mean, I think that we are under attack. by forces, if you like, forces of darkness from everywhere. And but like I always say, that's not reason enough not to continue raising the voice. My point of view is that if you believe in something, you feel it deeply in your heart, that's what you should be doing. You do it stubbornly, you do it almost religiously. Like that's what I've always done. So I believe in peace. I don't see any other way to live. Has the peace camp changed? It has transformed in many ways. The traditional peace camp would say that the Labor Party or whatever, that's gone. But then you have all these other things going on. You know, I belong to a WhatsApp group called Voices of Solidarity, right? I love this WhatsApp. I have a lot of WhatsApp groups. Maybe you guys, I don't know, you guys are big on WhatsApp in Israel. I don't know what we would do without that application. The entire country would collapse. but I have a group called Voices of Solidarity. Every day they post something which just, I mean, I don't know, it lifts my spirit. There's this gathering and that gathering. There's this meeting and that meeting. A lot of young people, by the way, a lot of really young people doing all kinds of things. It's either art, it's underground theater, it's alternative music. They have like graffiti things. They have
Israelis and Palestinians.
Israelis and Palestinians, or just Israelis, or just Palestinians. But a lot of, you know, you have organizations like Standing Together, which have become, you know, more and more popular with time. Yeah, I love them. But not only Standing Together, I mean, less known organizations, women's organizations, student groups, all kinds of things like mushrooms after the rain. And that is wonderful. So it's not in the face of the mainstream, but it's there and it's ready. I say these kind of things, they have to be ready. Because sometimes it just takes, I'll give you an example of what I mean about being ready, right? So Yitzhak Rabin, when he started with the talking about talking to Arafat, the terrorist, and everyone was like, what? No way, forget it. There's no 75% of the Israeli public were against any kind of interaction with Palestinians. But then, you know, he came with his charisma and his leadership and his integrity and his honesty and his track record. Yeah. And he started saying, you know, we're going to be doing this, and this is the right thing, and this is for Israel's future, for our children. We've made enough wars, blah, 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 blah. And then, I think it was like a month later, the entire public opinion had shifted towards being positive about the chances for peace. Now, what I mean to say by this is that things, when there's a certain set of circumstances that come together that can be very unexpected, a certain leader's personality, a certain timing, something that happens in the world, boom, all of a sudden things change. Now, when those things change, you have to be ready. Like, you know how they say when opportunity comes, you got to be ready for it when it comes. So we have to be ready, us in civil society in Israel, everywhere, to hold this opportunity when it comes. And sometimes it can come from the most dire circumstances. And this is the thing that makes me like optimistic. We'll talk more about through this horrible trauma, devastating situation that we're in. Maybe that is the low point that we needed to arrive to. The opening of doors, the opening of eyes, of minds, of the shattering of preconceptions that will then enable us through some serendipitous event to emerge into something more positive. That keeps me optimistic, and I'm an optimistic person. By the way, Shimon Peres said an amazing thing. I don't know if you ever heard this one, but he said that optimists and pessimists all die the same, but they live differently. Right. So anyways, I'm an optimist. And so I totally believe in this. Yes, the peace camp got a huge blow on October 7th, on the one hand. But on the other hand, the opposite. And I'll explain what I mean. Mm-hmm. So there are people that would look at okay, but you asked me where I was on October 7th. I was at home. My son was with his girlfriend in Masada. I'll tell you about my children. I have 3 children. I have a 23-year-old boy who just finished his reserve duty, and he's starting studies in the Achinoam together with his girlfriend. They're both computer rats. He's going to be studying data science, and she's studying robotics, and classic Israeli, right. that thing. And then my daughter is a combat soldier. That we'll talk about her in a minute. And I have a 14-year-old, lovely 14-year-old daughter by the name of Yam, which means the sea. Mm-hmm. Mark was trying to. Where's Mark? Mark. Yeah, Mark suggested, I don't know, I might even do that, that crazy school out in the middle of nowhere, that for her. But she's very much into nature and into the sea and da-da-da-da. She's sailing and whatever. Those are my three children. So my son and his girlfriend were in Masada in the south. On a trip on October 7th, which is not great because obviously that's where it was on.
Yeah.
And I remember I was in the morning, I went swimming. I swim almost every day. I live right by the beach. And we went to have some coffee with friends, and my friend told me, there's something going on. I said, what's going on? And this is typical Israeli jaded. There are missiles in Gaza. I said, oh, really? Oh, my God, again? Oh, well.
It's like rain in Vancouver.
That'll be over rain in Vancouver, yeah. That'll be over soon, I hope. And then after a half an hour, he says, I don't know, I think it's more serious this time. I said, how serious? He says, well, let's see. And then he said, oh my God, this is really serious. And then about in 2 hours, we understood that this was majorly.
And you're in Tel Aviv now? Where?
In my home, I live in Shfaim, in between Herzliya and Netanya. And so first we tried to find out where my son was. And the roads had already been blocked. And he was hiding out in I think it was Mitzpe Ramon or somewhere. I told him to get in the car and come home. I said, forget, just get in the car, come home. He said, but Mom, just get in the car, come home. And he did, and he came home. So he was home, and I was happy that he was home. But hour by hour, we started understanding what had happened. And, what can I say? I mean, I think that it'll take us, not years, generations, to really internalize what happened to us. I went, in Hebrew we say Sheva Medorei Gehenom, the 7 stages of hell, and like everybody in Israel, so I was devastated. I was devastated. I couldn't believe it. I started finding out, day by day, more friends, and not direct family members, but friends, children of friends from that party, from the kibbutzim, and then Vivian Silver, if you know, who was a good friend of mine, and yeah, it just get worse and worse and worse and worse. And then through the worse, it's been said many times before, we had these amazing moments of grace in Israel, where everybody, first the miluimnikim, the reserve dudes ran. I remember I went to sing in an army bases in the north. You had to see, that was a sight to see. The north was, everyone was paralyzed. But you saw hundreds and hundreds of cars along the road. And then you realize that the chayalim, the soldiers, had just taken their personal vehicles. They didn't wait for the army to arrange a car or a bus. They just took their cars. They drove to their bases. They left their cars, and they ran. You couldn't believe it. It was so amazingly magnificent to see the power of people's solidarity, of coming together, and you're all for one and one for all. Mamash, no cliche. It was amazing to see. And I, after 3 days, about 4 days, I told the Gil, okay, yalla, let's go. Let's go. Let's go see where we're needed. And we started, I posted on Facebook, I said, whoever needs me, I'm coming, let me know, right? And so I got hundreds of, from communities, from families, from army bases, and we started going, with a guitar in my car, no grandeur or any type. My sound engineer, maybe, with a sound system, without a sound system. Could
have brought him here.
Could have brought him here, right?
Yeah.
And we did, I think maybe 80 or 90 performances, everywhere, in hospitals, in private homes, and everywhere. And with us, all of Am Yisrael, Bemet, all of Eretz Yisrael, were there with whatever. In the kibbutz where I live, we took in Kfar Aza. So first they lived in the hotel. There's a hotel in Shfaim, so they all lived there. And they lived in everybody's houses. And we had a family in our house as well for a couple of weeks. And then there were caravans built. And then, and of course, clothing and supplies and everyone. And there were networks. And then Achim Laneshek, Brothers in Arms, with that crazy, insane logistics center that they built in Tel Aviv, which, oh my God.
Yeah, Rabbi Brown and I visited with Rabbi Bregman also.
Yeah. And a really good friend of mine, Professor Karin Nahon, she was the one that organized that. If you've heard, there was a whole floor of extremely brilliant people sitting there with their laptops, just trying to locate missing people and locate hostages. I mean, you just walk into this room, you see hundreds of people there, sitting around, cross-checking information, using algorithms, using all the highest technology in the world, high-tech nation, trying to find our brothers and sisters. It was amazing.
And it was all grassroots.
It was
This wasn't
all
the government.
grassroots. Yeah, we'll get to the
Yeah.
government in a second. Yeah. So this was the people, power to the people, right? The people took over, and when they did, Israel was like, it was heaven. In hell, there was heaven. Be'emet. I mean, I've never experienced anything like it in my life. It was inspiring, it was beautiful, it was horrible, it was a nightmare, it was a dream, all together. And that changed. The moment the government kicked back in, we started going from heaven and hell to hell. And that's where we are now. Now Israel, for me, is much worse situation than we were in October 8th.
Explain.
Much worse. A year has passed. Hostages are still in Gaza. The hostage situation, how can I explain this to you, is a nightmare beyond words. I go every week. Sometimes I go twice a week, 3 times a week, to stand with them. Sometimes they're under the bridge. Sometimes they're in front of the Knesset. Now they're striking hunger. Now they're doing, and Erev Rosh Hashanah, instead of being with my family, I went to be in Caesarea with the whole Rosh Hashanah that the families organized. They put like gravestones. It was fury and anguish beyond belief, and they do this and they do that. They're desperate. I don't know how they are still sane. I don't know how they're still sane, these families. And the fact that their children are still there, that they haven't been brought back, that not everything has been done to bring them back, is not anything that Israel will ever recover from. For me, that is it's beyond devastating. The government is still there. Now, I don't want to tell you what I think about the government. You probably know. But no matter what, okay, in my opinion, just my values, my moral standing would say that if you're a government and what just happened to your country happened, and we were massacred, like everyone said, the worst thing that's happened to the Jewish people since the Holocaust, and betrayed and forsaken, and all of that horrible thing, and the hostages and the babies and the old people and everything, what is the first thing you should do? Kneel down before your people. Go home. Go home. You have no right to be in your position one day. You have to resign. Now, if the people, I'm reminding you that Yitzhak Rabin, which was my personal hero, resigned because his wife had like $250 in some bank account somewhere. I mean, come on. That is moral standing. That's leadership. That's integrity. But these people, not only did they not resign, they then turned around to blame everybody that saved Israel, including brothers and sisters in arms, including all the organizations that volunteered, to blame the hostage families for daring to want their children back, taking the clans to abuse these people. No, it's beyond words. It's beyond words. So I'm saying that after a year, it's like abuse upon abuse upon abuse. It's physical and moral and emotional abuse beyond words. The fact that they're still there, the fact that they are promoting the dictatorship coup, Professor, Rabbi, Dan, the fact that they're still doing it. Now the Knesset is back. That's what they're doing. They're passing money to their coalition partners, taking it away from babies, from PTSD soldiers. Half the country is traumatized. The amount of soldiers in hospitals who are traumatized, who are broken, families that are broken. The economic situation is in a shambles. And instead of them doing everything to repair, to build, by the way, we have a Sarah Pnim who's a Haredi. I admire that guy. He's a guy that he's the minister, the internal minister, and he, despite what his political party says, he's doing everything to do the right thing, helping whoever needs to be helped, speaking out against the coalition money going to places that should never go. Chok HaIshtamtut, I'm sure you know that. They're passing a law, like a third of Israel is not going to go to the army for their coalition, rather than encouraging everybody for at least social service, at least civil service, at least. You have a country, we all work together. It's a small country, yes, it's surrounded by enemies. Yes, we have a lot of work to do. We have to do it together. Everybody needs to do the work together, by the way, including Arab Israelis. My philosophy is that all Arab Israelis should go to the army, everybody. And the one person does and another. If you're a citizen of Israel, you have to go to the army. And if it's not going to be in Modi'in, not everybody goes to the highest security positions. So do something else. But that makes you part of the society. I'm all for peace, so we don't need an army. But meanwhile, we need an army. And it has to be a strong army, and it has to be a good army, and it has to be the people's army. So everybody, if you want a society, everybody has it. Haredim, Arabim, everybody. The Arabs, the ultra-Orthodox, everybody has to be part of Israeli society. Rather than doing that, no, it's more polarization. Hate, having everybody hate everybody. Strew poison within Israeli society. That's what they're busy doing. Stealing the money. No, it's beyond words. It's beyond words for Israeli citizens who are decent, who send their kids to the army, like this mother here, who pay taxes, who work, who love the country, who support it, who carry the Israeli flag proudly above their head, even in the darkest times. And what they're doing is basically defaming Israel from Bamat HaKnesset, from the parliament. It's appalling beyond words. So right now, here we are, October 7th. Nobody's taken responsibility. There hasn't been any kind of investigation into the horrible occurrences of October 7th. The economy is going downwards. The reserve soldiers are like this. The army is like this. The entire world hates us. Now I mean, what else is going to happen? Somebody has to come and say, stop the car, stop. We have to do something. And it's not going to be this government. And the people, even those who have spent, now, you asked what I was doing before. I was demonstrating with millions of Israelis against the dictatorship coup to try to save Israel. We managed to, we had some success. We managed to stop things here and there, Gant being fired and some other things, I don't know. It was frail, but we had some success. After October 7th, of course, everybody being devastated, traumatized, so many people burying their children, their friends, trying to just make sense of it all. It was more difficult to get the demonstration going, but still people came out. Hundreds of thousands of people standing by the families of the hostages, standing by the chayalim, by the soldiers. I mean, yeah, that's what we're trying. I feel that the demonstration movement is the most important thing happening in Israel right now. And I can tell you as a person traveling abroad, and I travel a lot, and I'm still performing, even though after October 7th, you also asked me this. Yes. Concerts were canceled. First I canceled them because I couldn't even think about singing. Who can entertain in a situation like that? But then when I was ready to come back and, as an Israeli, to stand for the world, then the world didn't want Israelis anymore, right? Even peace activists like myself, just saying, guys, we'll talk later. Let's see what happens. I don't know. Security issues. We talked about that later. They say it's security. It's not exactly security issues. It's this and that. It's a problem. It's their insecurity. It's issues. Insecurity issues, right? The only country that has been very, very receptive to, but also I have a very special career there is Italy. In Italy, because of all the things that I told you about the Pope, the Benini, the thing, hundreds of concerts over the years. I'm proud to say that I'm commander of the Order of Merit of the Italian Republic. Yes, yeah. The only woman, the only foreigner, the only Jew. Right.
Tell us about your daughter a little bit, and then I'm going to get to everybody's questions.
So my daughter is, as I say, an active combat soldier. She wanted to do something meaningful in the army. It wasn't enough for her to she got all kinds of, suggestions she could have done like many of her girlfriends do.
Is she at the peace camp also?
That's a good question. I don't know. Be'emet, I don't know. I mean, she grew up in a home, obviously, that has this. She believes in peace, but, she's surrounded by a lot of young people who have different ideas. She also needs to separate herself from her mother, right? So she's, and I respect that. That's okay. I think the most difficult part for me was that I understood that she's in a rescue, she's called Plugat Chilutz Ve'Hatzala, which is a rescue unit. Basically, they pull people out of the rubble. In peaceful times, they were sent to Turkey when there was an earthquake and to other places in the world, and this was, of course, brought a lot of kavod to Israel, so that our young people were doing that. But now their unit mostly is in the West Bank. And when I heard that my daughter was going to be standing in roadblocks in the West Bank, I almost had a heart attack. I told her, Annette, do me a favor. Just take any other job. You can be a combat soldier, not in this unit, not there. I mean, forget what I think, okay? It's just dangerous. There are pyromaniacs over there. There are dangerous people. There are violent people. You could be hurt. And I was, until now, I'm not. No. Fortunately, she's a commander now. She commands new recruits, and the command base is not in the most dangerous areas. I keep comforting myself with little things. So it's not exactly there. She's here, and then she wants to be an officer, so she's making kurs k'tzinim, and so she'll go to another course, and then she still won't be. She won't be standing in a settlement. And God forbid, bemet.
So this might be her career. This might.
No.
Okay.
No. But no, she doesn't want it.
Okay.
No. She wants to travel around the world, and she wants to. Okay. But so I listen carefully to my daughter and her friends. When they sit around our house, they like our house is very. We have a very open house, and they are coming in and out. There's always food and I sit around with them a lot. And I realized one thing. First of all, they can't be bothered with the politics. They can't be bothered. And just like I was at their age, I can't be bothered. Leave me alone. I'm doing my thing right now. They're doing it. They feel that they have a duty to defend Israel. They feel very driven. They're on a mission, and that's what they're doing. So
and that's not political.
And no. This is Israel. It doesn't have to do with who's in government right now. Shlichut is that we have to protect our people, protect our homes, protect our families. This is what we need to be doing, and it's beautiful to see. When I went to the ceremony of if you know what a masakunta is, okay, masakunta is they do a sort of a journey or hike or of 32 kilometers with all of their equipment and their thing, and they lug things 32 kilometers in very difficult conditions. And when they finish this thing, then the parents come all together and they get their pin and they get all this, and we all rejoice and we bring a lot of food, and it's a very, the Jews, we have to eat no matter what. So I remember coming to this event and seeing all these young people. They're so full of motivation and they're so driven and they so want to give the best of themselves. And after that, I was just in tears the whole time. I said to myself, it is our duty to be worthy of these young people. We have to be worthy of them, which means we have to make sure they have a future. There's a trajectory where they can live in peace and not in war. So if they're giving the best of themselves, we have to give the best of ourselves. And that means to make sure we have decent leadership, we have a decent plan for the future, and we arrive at peace. So that's my daughter. She's doing her job. She understands that there's a complex situation. But right now, her place is to defend Israel.
Thank you. So we've got a number of questions.
Oh, wait, one statement that she told me once when I was like really, she said, in a moment of honesty, I remember we were having this there's something called a sachnash. Sachnash is like short for sichat nefesh, a soul talk. So she and I have sachnashes all the time. So we're lying down, and I remember we were in the backyard in the grass, and there was this beautiful moon. And I was really sad, because she was going back to the base for 3 weeks. I was going to see her. And she said, Mom, we're both doing the same thing, actually. And I said, what do you mean by that? She said, well, aren't you a warrior for peace? So I said, I am. I said, well, so am I.
Wow.
And so
that's how she sees you.
I was very proud of her. And I have one last thing. Do you know there's something in Israel called Shnat Shirut, a year of service? My daughter did a year of service. And so this is incredible. We say TikTok generation, me generation, but you have tens of thousands of young people. They give a year of their life for social service. My daughter went to a boarding school for deeply disturbed young people who went through psychiatric events with a suicide attempt or abuse. And she was like a big sister to them for a year.
This is before the army.
Yeah, and she went through the most difficult moments. And I remember I was like, enough, Anna, do me a favor, come home. You don't have to be Mother Teresa. And so she says to me, Mom, these kids, everybody betrayed them. Their family, society, everybody left them. I won't, and I'll stay with them. And after she did that, she then volunteered to be a combat soldier. So I'm saying, wow, I mean, these are our young generation that we can be very proud of.
Thank you. So we have about 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And 20 questions.
Oh,
we
my
won't
gosh.
do a minute a question.
Oh my God.
But we'll do as many as we can.
Right.
So maybe a lightning round. How can we best support the peace builders?
Support them. Let me tell you something about this thing, and I'll say, for me, the most important thing is to talk the talk, right? Talk the talk and walk the walk. Does that mean that what you're going to do will immediately bring results? We said that at the beginning. No, but say it. Say what you want. Are we going to achieve peace tomorrow? No. But we can say we want it. We can point in that direction. I remember that when this goes back to Eurovision, when I was doing the Eurovision thing, and there was a Gaza offensive at the same time. And people were saying to me and to Mira, you guys are distorting reality, you're a fig leaf, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. You know, I said, first of all, the job of artists is not to reflect reality. The job of artists is to create reality. So we create, here we are, we're a Palestinian and Israeli. We don't agree on everything, we agree on enough. We know that there must be another way. We're showing a reality that can be our reality if we go for it. We're pointing the way, and we're inviting you to follow. And so that's what I say, do that. Point the way, say, we want peace. That's my intention is peace. I'm hurt, I'm grieving, I'm ailing, I'm angry, I'm afraid, I'm anxious, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty around, but I'll tell you what I want, what my dream is. Here it is, it's over there. My dream is for us to be able to find a way to live in peace, and do I believe in it? Yes, but you have to believe in it. Because if you don't believe in it, you're not going to convince anybody, at least of all yourself, right? So believe that there is a possibility for people to live together. You think everybody hates you? Not everybody hates you. Do you think everybody wants to kill you? No, not everybody wants to kill you. There are a lot of people that just want to live like you do. They're out there just going about their business. Let's find them. Let's create coalitions. Let's create partnerships. Let's do things together. Artistic collaborations, academic collaborations, whatever. Talk the talk of peace. I believe in that with all of my heart. So that's my first suggestion.
Is there anything specific from Canada that you think we could do to further that goal, to further that vision?
Okay, well, maybe some people are not going to like what I'm going to say right now, okay? But I really think that you should distance yourself from the Israeli government. Separate the Israeli government from the Israeli people. It's not the same thing, really. I mean, and there have been a lot of international institutions that have done that as well. I'm actually friendly with Josep Borrell, which is the Vice President of the European Commission, the European Union. He's an amazing man. And he has said that. He said, from everything that I've learned and everything that I've seen that there's an Israeli government and that there's Israeli people. Now, even people, Poles, okay? Poles don't trust Poles. They swift like this. They go like this, or like the wind, all right? But if you are going to look at a lot of consistent polls, you'll see that even people that voted for the present government, feel betrayed by what the government has eventually done. They don't understand how the government has not taken responsibility. They don't understand how the dictatorship keeps moving forward when we're in such a stressful situation. They don't understand how our relationship with the entire world has come to a complete collapse under the auspices of this government. No, the Israeli government right now is the enemy of the Israeli people. And you can say that. No, we support the Israeli people, we support the country of Israel, but we do not support the Israel. Their people are not welcome here. Netanyahu is not welcome here, and his ministers are not welcome here. Who are welcome here is Israeli civil society. That's what I think. I mean, if you want to know what helps us as the peace camp, as the people who believe that Israel can, and by the way, the peace camp now is not right and left anymore. There are people that just want to live in peace. I have a lot of friends, Bashtachim, in the settlements. I go visit them. They're my friends from school, from SAR Academy. I'm there all the time. Not everybody, it's not consistent. It's not one thing. You have radicals, you have extremists. The extremists are dangerous. They're dangerous in Israel, they're dangerous in Palestine, they're dangerous in America, they're dangerous everywhere. Extremists should be marginalized. The moderates should be strengthened. So strengthen the moderates in civil society in any way you can.
So I have to ask this, maybe just as a shtuch, which is that a shtuch.
What's a shtuch? Shatuach.
Yeah.
Okay.
So some will say that to criticize the Israeli government now, when it's being criticized all over the world, when Israel's being criticized all over the world, when it's an existential threat, an under existential threat and crisis, is not only unhelpful, but it's helping Israel's enemies.
I beg to differ. I think that the most dangerous thing to Israel right now is the Israeli government. The Israeli government is destroying the country. I mean, there's so much, really, I mean, I'm sorry to say, I don't know what's going to happen in November 4th in the United States, 5th. November 4th is Rabin. That's a different day. November 5th in the United States. But it would be safe to say that if this incredibly dangerous man takes over the United States, that would be a big problem for the United States and for the world itself. Israel is small, it's 9 million people. You have a person, Benjamin Netanyahu, I don't have a good word to say about this human being, okay? He is interested in one thing, and that is staying in power. He has brought into government the worst of the extremists, Ben Gvir and Smotrich. There is not one thing that these people are doing which is in the benefit of our country. Not one. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. Israel is an amazing country. We have amazing citizens. We have amazing people. We have amazing potential. But this government, what it's doing right now is destroying Israel, and criticizing it is helping Israel. In my opinion.
Yeah. No, we invited you here for your opinion, and I know that not everybody that's here, or maybe everybody that's here, but not everybody that's going to hear this is going to agree with that, and that's okay.
You know, throughout history, countries have fallen into terrible situations of leadership. Italy, my favorite country in the world after Israel, became a fascist country at some point with Mussolini, and there was Franco, and there were other people, you know, other countries that came into situations where. Does that delegitimize the country? No. It means that a certain events, a combination of events led to the fact that a country was now held hostage by leadership that did not work in her benefit. That is what is happening right now to Israel, and we have to work through it together with the help of our friends, and you are our friends.
Okay. There's more questions, but I guess I want to ask, I want to kind of shift the script a little bit.
All right.
What gives you hope? What, beyond all the things that break our hearts, that assault our souls, things that are happening there in Israel, things that are happening to Israelis around the world, things that are happening to Jews here in Canada and beyond, what gives you hope in this moment? Give us something that gives us hope.
Well, first of all, you know, this is a cliche maybe, but sometimes things need to get really bad for them to get good. You know, and the analogy that I always like to give is I have 3 children of my own, and I insisted on natural childbirth with no painkillers, which is a bit insane, was that the child comes just when you're ready to die, you know? I swear. You're experiencing pain, you're saying, how painful is painful? And then it gets worse, and then it gets worse, and then I remember I told the midwife, listen, I'm gonna die. And if I die, who's going to give birth? So she said, yes, the child is coming. And I remember her being happy. So this woman is crazy. But she was right. It was just so insane. And through this crazy, blinding pain, my daughter was born. And then the pain like disappeared. I remember that crazy, whoever gave birth that way, Moses. All of a sudden it goes away. You're holding a child. So who knows? I think that for years, now we're talking about Israel. Israel was living in a sort of like a deep state of denial of what was going on in Israel, with the occupation, with the Palestinians. And that connects to, you know, the people saying, what happened? One fine day they came up and slaughtered us. Chaverim, it's not one fine day. It happened as a long process. For me, it started with 4th of November. It started before, but 4th of November when peace was killed, and then it deteriorated and deteriorated. And we, you know, a lot of people worked for peace, which was wonderful. But as long as our government and us as the state of Israel did not do everything in its power, and the Palestinians, I think everyone is to blame. Wait, I want to say something.
That's
a friend of mine,
I haven't heard,
a friend of mine had the same guy, Saïd Abu Shakra, the guy from the Umm al-Fahm. He always says, when you point your finger at somebody, 3 fingers are pointing at you. Did you ever notice that? That's very cool. Which means that if you go around blaming everybody, remember, you can also look at yourself. In my opinion, everybody in the region is to blame for the horrible situation we're in. Nobody made the efforts. The leadership did not make efforts to make peace. Not Israeli leadership, definitely not Palestinian leadership. The extremists were having their heyday. And we were, in Israel, we sort of said, you know, Netanyahu, my favorite guy, said, we can just sort of handle it's okay, we'll just handle it. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. It'll explode. It's like every trauma, everything you have that you don't take care of, if you don't go to therapy, if you don't take care of your issues, they'll backfire. They'll come back to you. They'll come back to get you. And they came back to get us big time in a horrible, horrible way. And now we can't deny it anymore. We can't hide. Israelis cannot go back to La La Land that everything is okay. Now, this can bring us to 2 places. It can bring us to a worse place, more isolation, more hatred, more bloodshed, more warfare, more militarism, more protection against walls. It can. That is a horrible scenario that I don't want to think about. I prefer to look at the other scenario. To say that, okay, from all of this, from this realization, this shattering, this waking up, this crying, and this trauma will come, just like in therapy, really. You know, when you realize, God forbid, that you had a trauma in youth that you suppressed all your life, and then through some kind of hypnosis or something, you realize, and you see what's been hindering you all these years. What is this horrible thing that you were holding in your stomach, in your heart, that is now coming out, and you say, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, but then slowly you go like this, and you say, oh my, okay, now maybe I can start again. and I can look at things differently, and I can build things differently.
Is there a Noah on the other side? I mean,
Of course.
are there those voices that are struggling over this like you are, that are yearning for peace like you are, that are seeing this as the moment when peace as opposed to conquest is finally struck?
Yes, yes. I know them personally. I see them. I just went to a conference in Barcelona, by the way, organized by the European Union, where there were a lot of civil organizations and human rights. And yes, there's a lot of anger and frustration. Everyone is right now like up in arms. But if you sort of, shift that aside and you see what's going on underneath, people want to reach out to each other. They understand that there's no other way. There's no other way. There's no other way but a diplomatic solution. No other way. And I think that, so we'll talk about the war. Was Israel justified in protecting itself? I think absolutely. What were we supposed to do? Sit around like this while our kids were being massacred and our women were being raped? Yes, Israel needed to go in. The war was legitimate, but it was legitimate to the extent that there was a plan. There needs to be a plan. Say, okay, we have to fight. We have to say, but now let's see. Okay, we've attacked. We've retaliated. We've done this. We've shown that we're there for our people. But we have to bring the hostages back. One, most important thing, we have to bring the hostages back. Second, we have to see, okay, who are our allies? We're a small country. We're 9 million people. Whoa, we want to attack the entire world? No. Who are our allies? Who are our friends? How can we start progressing towards a solution to this, not endless warfare? Who are the people that want to talk to us? The UAE, the Saudis, the Americans, the Europeans. Let's reach out to them. This is what the Israeli government should have done immediately. One of your questions was, if I were asked what to do. That's what I would ask to do. Yes, of course the army had to be there. The army needs to be strong. The army has to protect Israel. But at the same time, parallel, the institutions need to come in and do their job, the diplomatic job, to reach out to our friends. We have to get by with a little or a lot of help from our friends and make sure that Israel is secure. Our security will come with peace, only with peace. And we have to look at this as an opportunity to make peace. And are there partners? There are. The amount of papers that have been written, the amount of drafts, the amount of suggestions to bring in a technocratic government, to bring in people who are not Hamas, of course, to distance Hamas, to bring in people to bring money in to rebuild Gaza, money in to rebuild Israel, to secure both borders. We have Amos Hochstein, who went to school with me in SAR, who's waiting in Lebanon to try. Jordan, who helped us when the Iranians were shooting missiles, do you think they really want it? No, all these people are just waiting. If we would have solved the Palestinian issue years ago, the Saudis would already be at peace with us. We would already have a regional Middle East which would look different. Why have we not done it? Now, the reason we haven't done it is because we have within us messianic forces who believe that doing that is Armageddon. That's it. They won't do it. They'll die and they won't do it. They'll sacrifice the last of our children and not give up one stone for peace. I cannot subscribe to that point of view as a woman who lives in Israel, loves Israel, and sends her kids to the army. No, we need to be able to look forward to a time when we will not be sending our children to the army. Is it possible? Yes, it's been told. The Arab League has put a peace initiative for 20 years, Dan, on Israel's table. Why haven't we taken it? The Israeli people and the Jewish people have to wake up and say, guys, enough, enough, enough. Haven't we sacrificed enough children? Enough blood? Haven't so many years been lost? Let's stop the car, get off, look at each other and say, and I remember I once wrote an article for an Italian paper. They tell me, what do you think? I said, I'll give you in 3 words. Recognize, apologize, share. That's all. We have to recognize the trauma, recognize the narratives, recognize the pain, recognize the rights, recognize the humanity. Apologize because we've been awful to each other. We've murdered each other. We've bombed each other with suicide bombings and this and that. And we did it. Horrible. And now let's share. No one's going to get a complete anything. If you're not going to compromise, if it's going to be absolute, it's going to be bloodshed forever. Recognize, apologize, share. Stop the car. Get off. Find your partners. Work with them. Support each other. Civil society. Moderation. Women. More and more women are raising voices all over the world. Support the women. Support the peace activists. Do it. Is it possible? It's doable. It's possible. It will happen.
Wow. I learned from our cantor that sometimes song is much more powerful than sermon, and so maybe we could get a song.
Oh, okay. Yes. So of course I wasn't planning to sing, but I had some ideas, but I trashed them as I went along here. And I want to sing something, actually, that I learned in school, in yeshiva. It's a sentence that I love more than any other, and that is about Etz Chaim, the tree of life. Etz Chaim hi lamachazikim ba.
It's written right there on our...
Right. דרכיה דרכי נועם, בכל נתיבותיה שלום. And I so believe in that. It's my mantra. And מה זה he, by the way? Who is she? The tree of life. She is the tree of life for whoever holds on to her. And it is said that that is the Torah. And I think each one of us, deep inside, have their Torah. We have our Torah. My Torah is ואהבת לרעך כמוך. My Torah is shalom, וצדק תרדוף, and all of these things. That's my Torah, and I stick to it religiously. I'm more religious than most religious people that I know, in that sense. And since my name is Achinoam, I've also carried this Noam, this peace, with me throughout my life and intend to continue doing so. So this is a song. I'll sing it to you, and maybe if you know it, you'll join in. Etz Chaim hi lamachazikim ba vetomchea meusha. Etz Chaim hi lamachazikim ba vetomchea meusha derachea Achinoam v'chol netivotea shalom derachea Achinoam v'chol netivotea shalom. Etz Chaim hi lamachazikim ba vetomchea meusha derachea dakeinom v'chol netivotea shalom derachea dakeinom v'chol netivotea
So wonderful. Thank you for that.
תודה רבה, everybody. Thank you.
You may be going silent for a week or 10 days. We are going to be talking about this night for a long time. Thank you so much. Thank you to the
Thank you,
Roadwork
friends.
Foundation.
Yay! תודה רבה.
Thank you to Jewish Federation. Thank you to Zika. Thank you to Noah.
Beautiful.
Rabbi Dan! Woo!
Friends, there, of course, as Noah said, you can't do a Jewish function without food. There's a reception in our social hall. I think Noah will stick around for a little bit, although she's been flying and traveling, so we'll let her get home as soon as she can. Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.